Happy Sunday, knitters! Welcome to the Knitty McPurly podcast, episode 151. I'm your host, Devin You can find me at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm Knitty McPurly on Instagram, and if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Welcome. How are you today? It is a beautiful, slightly warm, overcast fall day here. I wish it was a little cooler, but I'm going to get my wish on Tuesday. The temperature is going to drop. So that's going to be amazing. Of course, it's Halloween because, you know, we have to have the discussion of how we're going to stay warm while trick-or-treating. Got to have that discussion. That's important. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up. I have almost 6,000 subscribers. That's crazy. So thank you so much to those of you who have subscribed. We have to do something special when I get to 10. I don't know what we're going to do, but we've got to do something. So go subscribe. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate you. I am wearing my faux set today. I'm also wearing my sleeve. The sleeve for me is like, this is indicative of me adulting. Like, I'm doing the right thing. I'm supposed to be wearing this, so I am wearing it. I should have been wearing it all summer, and I did not do that, but I have it on now with my faux set sweater. This outfit you've seen many, many times because I wear it all the time. This is a dress that I made years and years ago, and this is the faux set that I completed the most recently in the Knitty McPurly Dubrovnik DK in the Poirot, Bosque, and Morel colorways. So I'm wearing this today because, like I said, it's kind of warm. And it's definitely not long sleeve sweater weather today, but it will be later in the week, and I can't wait to pull out my sweaters. Okay, progress and shop news. Oh, that reminds me, today's podcast is brought to you by the state of Michigan. Thanks, Amy, and all the Michiganders out there joining us. I love this cup because it is giant. I like to make tea with 2 tea bags. And this is a great amount of tea to drink. I'm a big herb tea fan because it doesn't have any calories, but it still tastes pretty good. The Celestial Seasonings Bengal Spice is my go-to. 2 tea bags and a lot of water. It's so good. And it's cheap too, and you can get it anywhere. So I have been very hard at work on my advent calendars. Like, I'm doing it, I'm working on them like it's my job. It is my job, actually, but I've been living and breathing these advent calendars. They are amazing. I am kind of blown away by how great this advent calendar has turned out. It's my best one yet. Out of all the calendars I've done, this is the best yet. So if you were lucky enough to get one, first of all, you're lucky. And you also got a really good deal because there are 9 patterns that accompany this advent calendar, and they're a part of the calendar. You don't have to pay extra for them. They are a part of the calendar. So if you bought the calendar, there's 9 ornament patterns, 9 clues, 4 are mystery knit along. They're going to ship the week of November 13th through the 17th. Depending on when I can get them out, there's a lot of them. So sometime during that week, they will ship to arrive Thanksgiving week or possibly the week after, depending on, you know, that's a busy time to ship things. But December 1st is the Friday, not the Friday right after Thanksgiving. The week after Thanksgiving, it's the Friday of that week. So you need to have your calendar to start on that Friday. So like I said, you got an amazing deal if you bought this calendar because it's going to come with 26 mini skeins, 10 gram mini skeins of DK weight yarn. And the reason it comes with 26 is because there are 25 little boxes for Advent and one for Christmas, but there's also an extra mini skein for swatching. So when you get your calendar, when you open it up, there will be one skein that's not in a box, and that will go with the planning page that you can just open up and download and start working on before December 1st. And the reason for that is because you're going to need to choose your DPN size. All of these patterns are written for DPNs, but you could easily do it with Magic Loop if you want. People who use Magic Loop or people who do another form of toy knitting know what they like. And if you haven't done it before, I would say just go with the DPNs. I used US 3s for mine, but you're going to work a swatch, and there are very detailed directions on how to use your sample skein to make your swatch, and that will become a coaster too. So that is not just a throwaway swatch, it's a really, really pretty skein, and it's going to turn into a coaster. So I guess actually there's 10 patterns if you count that little swatch pattern too. So it's pretty epic, I think. Now, what if you're saying to yourself, but Devin, I didn't get an advent calendar. That either was not in my budget this year, or I didn't know if I was going to have time, or I just missed it. What do I do? What do I do? Oh no. If you really want to join in with the knit along, you can. So here's how that will work. If you want to join in and knit the 9 ornaments with us, but you didn't get an advent calendar, you can buy the Advent knit along. And that is going to be all 9 patterns, well, 10, I guess, if you include the swatch pattern, all of the patterns together. And that is going to cost $18. And you might say, well, geez, Devin, $18 is a lot of money for some knitting patterns. But if you think of the fact that it is 9 patterns, it's really only $2 a pattern. And after Advent, after Christmas, all of these patterns are going to be standalone knitting patterns, either as a small toy or as an ornament, or if you knit it out of bigger yarn, it could be a larger toy. So I'm actually really excited to knit all of these out of super bulky. I think that's going to be so fun because they're going to be big. Well, if I have to stop talking or I'll say things I don't mean to say. So yeah, this is all actually a really good deal because later each individual pattern is going to cost, I don't know what, maybe $5. I'm not sure. I haven't really thought that far ahead, but they will be all standalone patterns later. So if you want them and you didn't get an advent calendar, feel free to join us for the knit along. Those are going to go up before that week, the week of the 1st or Thanksgiving, depending on when I can get it. It's been a lot of work, you guys. Like, it's been kind of a ridiculous amount of work to write all the patterns, but also the failures. Like, if I had 9 successful patterns, that means I had a minimum of 9 failures. So all through the summer, I was carrying around this bag of little 10-gram balls of yarn because I knew that I was only going to have 10 grams of each color. So what I did was I made a lot of balls of 10 grams so that I could work with those and try different patterns out and try different shapes and different little creatures and things that might work for the advent calendar. And yeah, so I just have a ton of those laying around, and Charlotte has adopted most of them. But yeah, it's been a lot. It's 9 knitting patterns with photo tutorials. Some of them have video tutorials. To get those tested and tech edited, my test knitter and tech editor are amazing. They have been so great. But yeah, anyway, that's what I have been working on for the past week. Also, the Audrey labels are now in the shop. They're on the main page and also the accessories tab. If you click the sweater labels, you can go in and choose an Audrey. And if you buy an Audrey label, I will send you one of the giant ones too. Okay, sock ruler pre-orders are also still up. And so you can go pre-order a sock ruler whenever you want. Just remember that your whole order is going to ship together. If you ordered other stuff with your sock ruler, that will come with the ruler. So if you want them to ship separately, place 2 separate orders. Okay. My Go Lightly sweater, I've had a little bit of progress. It's not super exciting progress because it's just the body of the sweater, but I'm a little bit further. There's good news and there's bad news with the Dresden DK. So I'm just a little bit further. That's my yarn that my sleeve stitches are on. I'll give you the bad news first. The bad news is that when you're working with yarn that does not have a lot of stitch definition, gosh, the light in the camera just picks up every little knobbly piece. When you don't have a lot of stitch definition, it's easy to drop a stitch. That's the bad news. The good news is that you don't notice. Well, I've been able to see when I've dropped it and just easily go back and pick it up again. I haven't had anything be unfixable. Now something happened here. I'm not sure what it is. I ended up with a hole and I don't see a drop stitch, because if there was a drop stitch, it would just continue to drop all the way down. And that's not the case. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but the good news is that I can just go back later and kind of weave in a piece of yarn in there and you will never notice. So while it's easier to make a mistake when your yarn doesn't have a lot of stitch definition, it's easy to fix that because you just don't see it. You're not even gonna notice that there was a mistake there once I weave in another piece of yarn. So that is the occupational hazard of working with a yarn that doesn't have a lot of stitch definition. Okay, here is a little segment of Charlotte Shows Off. Last week on my Knitting Fantasies, I talked about this knitted crown. So if you want the pattern, it's available on Etsy. It was on sale last week for like 20% off. It's linked in my last episode. I'll link it down below again, so you don't have to go back and find that. But as soon as I knit this, we kind of knew that it was going to be Charlotte's, and it has not left her head. So here it is. Okay. Now go.
Hi.
Is that what you wanted to say?
Yes. Okay. So, I think you guys have seen this before, but Gigi, I think, has showed you this before, and I've got a big needle. I want to stop someone right now.
I'm a little scared. So these are giant needles that Gigi got to make a sweater a while ago that she never finished. It just didn't end up happening. But Charlotte found them recently and picked them up and has been making something. Show what you made.
Yes, but first, can I tell them something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, because, like, I never want to knit with tiny yarn again because it takes so long. I just want to make my knitting. And guess what? I started this yesterday on Saturday at, like, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started this, like, 6 o'clock. And I haven't really been doing it a lot, but...
Look at that.
Well, that's 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah, look at that. So
and I got this much left.
This is what, 10 stitches? We cast on 10 stitches,
yeah,
and she has been working in garter stitch. And it's a little bit challenging to work with such big needles.
I don't think it's hard.
Do you want to show us how you do it?
Yes.
You got to hold it up a little bit.
Yes, I know. I'm just going to kind of stand up because that's kind of
let me turn it down a little bit so you can see. There we go. So it's hard to do things when people are watching you. Hold on. Oof. There it is. Yeah.
I'm going to show one more time.
Okay, one more. Very good. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about today is your crown.
Yes.
So I made this last week, and we knew pretty quickly that Charlotte was going to be the one to wear this because you kind of are the queen.
I know, I really am.
Now,
I wear it in the bathroom, at bed, and
it has not left your head since you got it. You wore it to church this morning. Yeah. So there are directions in there for strengthening the points, but my points are still kind of rolling out a little bit.
I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think
you know what I do
too.
every day? I'll do this, where I'll kind of do this, then I'll kind of like fold them in like this.
I steam blocked them. Maybe I should steam block them again if I could get it off your head.
And that's how you do it.
You
will not get this off my head.
She's a character, that girl. I tell you what. Okay, so we talked a couple weeks ago about DPNs, and this week, our topic of the week is a continuation of that because I bought some new ones and I wanted to share about that. So I ranked my favorite DPNs as these Knitter's Pride wooden ones, And I also, these are how many I could find on a quick look around. These are also Knitter's Pride, but they are the Zings, and they're metal. And I complained that they were a little bit heavy. And I talked about ChiaoGoo because ChiaoGoo is my favorite circular needle because of that red cord. It's just so amazing. But I had mentioned that I didn't own any ChiaoGoo DPNs. So I click, went on Amazon and bought some of them. I bought this set of metal 6-inch DPNs, and these are all in US 3 because that's what I'm using to work on the advent calendar. So I thought it's always good to have. This is a size I use a lot, and so I thought this would be a good size to have. So I got this set of metal ChiaoGoo DPNs, and I also bought this set of bamboo ChiaoGoo DPNs. ChiaoGoo sounds like one of those Chinese words you see on Instagram and you're like, well, it's just another one of those words, but they're actually really amazing needles. If you're a knitter, you already know that, but if you're my mom and you're going, what? These are actually really amazing needles. So I just bought these. They just came in the mail and I have not tried them out yet, but I did weigh them because the weight of needles is very important. Oh my gosh, I think Rocky just got the door open. No, it was like it was locked. How did he get it open? That was my husband, and he let Rocky in, and Rocky wants to stay. So my husband took his collar off because his collar jingles because he's blind and he needs to hear himself. So now he doesn't have his collar on and he's like so excited. Anyway, I weighed these needles and I want to share with you what I found because in my opinion, one of the best qualities of a double-pointed needle is that it is light. So you will probably be unsurprised to find out that the ChiaoGoo, see, he can't hear himself, so now he's running into stuff. Never a dull moment. The ChiaoGoo bamboo needles weigh the least. I brought my, I have a really great, very accurate, sensitive scale that I use for dyeing, where I measure out the dye. So the ChiaoGoo bamboo needles weigh 0.98 grams, less than 1 gram per needle. It is the lightest. And they feel very smooth. They don't feel grippy at all. Sometimes bamboo needles can be a little grippy, but these feel really nice. So I haven't tried them yet, but these are a contender for being my new favorite. Coming in second, so less than 1 gram. Coming in second at 1.5 grams are the Knitter's Pride wooden needles. So they are 50% heavier than the ChiaoGoo bamboo needles. Coming in third place at 2.47 grams, which is approximately these two added together, are the ChiaoGoo metal needles. I'll put all this down below so you don't have to remember it. So we've got less than 1 gram, 1.5 grams, about 2.5 grams. And do you remember when I complained about the Knitter's Pride Zings because I thought they were too heavy? They weigh 3.15 grams for 1 needle. So the Knitter's Pride Zings is more than triple the ChiaoGoo bamboo needle. So I guess I was right. They are a little bit heavy. I actually thought these felt a little heavy too, the ChiaoGoo metal needles, but they're just under 2.5 grams. And the Knitter's Pride Zings are 3.15. So those are the weights for the US 3, which is 3.25 millimeters. I'll link all that below. But isn't that interesting? And if you were to weigh these on like a regular scale or even a postal scale, you're not going to get that down to the 100th of a gram measurement that you get on a dye scale. So it's very specific, but very telling. So I'm going to try working with these later today, the ChiaoGoo bamboos, because they are so light. I can hear my husband and my daughter are working out in the basement and I can hear their music all the way up here. I think it's a little loud. Okay. Oh, I also wanted to share with you a podcast watcher who asked to remain anonymous mailed me a package. She sent me in this fabulous Knitty McPurly bag. Thank you, anonymous podcast watcher. She sent me some signature needles. I was like, really? Are you sure? And what's funny is she wrote it to me on this Chanel stationery, and she was like, well, the needles are bougie, so I had to make my stationery bougie too. It was a package of the utmost bouginess. So these are circular interchangeable needles, and the signature interchangeables come with this grippy pad. This is awesome. I love it. All of the interchangeable needles that I have used in the past have come with a key, and she also sent me this ChiaoGoo. Thank you so much. This is a non-interchangeable. I can't read it right now. I'm not sure what size that is. Maybe looks like maybe a 5. But thank you so much. That was so nice. So there are a bunch of cords, and the cords have a little bit of memory, but they're very bendy. So even though they do have a little bit of memory, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a problem. And I don't see any holes in there. So it looks like you just used this grippy thing to attach them. I'm just now trying this out. I can't see very well. Might need to. But I remember someone telling me, oh yeah, there we go. So that each needle has its own cord. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm going to be trying these out. Thank you so much, my lovely friend. I hope I did that right. I don't know. I gotta look at it more closely. You know how it is when you get older and you can't read tiny things anymore? But there's a bunch of them in here. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to try those out. But what I do when I can't read something is I take a picture of it with my phone and then I zoom in. Do you do that? It works pretty well. All right, moving right along to the comments section. My first comment is from Baker Street Knits. She says, haha, I think traveling without yarn is a great excuse to visit a new yarn store and get something new and exciting. That's a good point. I got lots of comments about traveling without yarn relating to last week's, so here's what happened. I don't think I would embark on such a long trip without yarn, but I definitely think it worked out in her case. Knock Knits says, there was a brief glimpse of your workshop on Instagram a week or so ago, and I'm so interested. If you're ever looking for ideas for a topic of the week, we would love a tour of your dyeing studio. Another great podcast, the highlight of my week. So I have had this request before, and I have shown glimpses before, but they're always very carefully curated because I am an untidy person. I'm just a little messy. I don't know why we thought it would be quieter without the collar. Rocky, he's such a good boy. I'm just a little bit messy, and that I'm a little like, oh, do I really want to show my workspace? I don't know. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll continue to carefully curate. We'll see. Kim Klinger says, I was so excited to hear my name, stunned actually, as the Diggory Knit-Along winner. And then you read my email. My cousin said I'm a star. Well, I feel like one. Thank you so much. Congratulations again, Kim. And I'm sorry it took me like most of the week to get you your $50 gift card. But congratulations. And I love that it makes people happy when I mention them. I'm just little old me in my corner of the internet, but I'm so glad that it made your day. Asa Johansson said, I made my crown headband with wool yarn that has a reflective thread so that I will be visible in the dark when walking the dogs. Oh my gosh, that is genius. Poor Rocky. He's just gonna stay here. That's actually genius. This morning, this is a terrible story. It's a near miss of a terrible story. I'm gonna put his collar on him and let him leave the room. He's just gonna wait on the floor outside for me because that's what he does, but hold on. So anyway, we were driving to church this morning and it was dark because it was 6 o'clock in the morning. And there was a person walking on the road wearing black. And I mean, they were like right on the white line, and my husband did not hit him, thank God. But he was like, oh my gosh, like we were like, oh, like we just didn't see him in time. Luckily, we had left enough space. It was like the guardian angel just kind of pushed the car over a little bit. I don't know. But we said a little prayer for that person that they made it home safely. But if you're out walking in the dark, do not wear black. Reflective, bright, colored clothing is great. Have a light with you too, so people can see you. Lisa S. said, totally just got home from my second day of Rhinebeck. Worth it to slog through the mud yesterday. Today was gorgeous sun with a chill in the air. Now I need to get myself in order to do the Audrey knit along. Awesome, Lisa. Sounds like it was great, great fun. Denise said, I casted, why does that sound wrong, on my Audrey today. I know what you mean. I was thinking about the word cast. You could say I cast it on or I casted it on. I'm pretty sure that both of those are grammatically correct. Like if you think about a fishing cast, you can say that you casted or that you cast. I think my non-expert opinion is that it's good. She says, Denise says, this is her 4th Audrey sweater that she has knit, and I am planning to raise the back neck with a few short rows. I never wear burgundy/red, but age is making me bolder. That's awesome. So a deep wine color is what I have chosen. Devin, you need a reddish color in your palette. I'm using Cascade 220 Superwash, so we'll see. I am stash busting. Denise has brought up so many good points. First of all, short rows. The Audrey sweater does not have short rows in it, but you can absolutely put them in if you want to. If you don't know what I'm talking about, short rows are extra rows that you knit in the back neck, just in the back neck part of the sweater, that raise the back up a little bit and cause the front to dip down a little bit. I sometimes put them in and I sometimes don't. It's a preference thing. If you want to add in short rows, I would recommend, and I got other questions about this too, I would recommend that you knit the ribbing, and then as soon as you're done with the ribbing, put the short rows in. That would be a great place. And because this is worsted weight yarn, you probably could get away with just doing one back and forth or maybe two, depending on how much you want the front to drop down a little bit. It keeps the front from raising up too high and bothering you. So that's the purpose of it. So that is a great top. Age is making you bolder. Amen, sister. That is awesome. I love that. She says I need red in my palette, and I agree. I know that I don't have red, and I know that that's a hole. So there will be a red coming. I don't want to, this is how I get myself into trouble because I get so excited about things and I just jump into them. But at some point there will be a red. Okay, Sharon says, I have the first repeat of the neck ribbing rows done on my Audrey. I'm using Valley Yarns Waitley that I bought several months ago when it was on sale. It is a blend of alpaca and cotton and is very soft. I think it will make a great Audrey. Yeah, that's a great choice. I love that idea. Alpaca and cotton. The alpaca would soften up the cotton and also give it more pliability, but the cotton would offer more structure to the sweater in the end because alpaca can be weighty and it has great drape, but sometimes you don't want too much drape. So I think that's actually a great combination. And Denise using the Cascade 220, excellent, excellent idea. That's a great yarn. Jan Hatfield has asked a very, very good question. And someone else has brought this to my attention too. And I think, I don't want to say it's an error in the pattern because it's not really an error. It's just a part of the Audrey pattern that's a little confusing. She says, hi, I started the Audrey sweater and I'm having trouble with the ribbing increases. What does twice mean? So I'm going to put on the screen what the pattern says. It says ribbing set up round, asterisk, parentheses, knit 1, comma, purl 1, semicolon, repeat from asterisk to 2 stitches before marker, comma, knit 2, comma, slip marker, end parentheses twice. So I think what's wrong is that the asterisk at the very beginning needs to go inside the parentheses because the asterisk is referencing the knit 1, purl 1. Knit 1, purl 1 repeat and you just knit one, purl one all the way around. That's what you're repeating. But when you get to 2 stitches before the marker, you knit 2, slip marker. So what you do twice is what's in the parentheses. So you're basically working the increases here for the ribbing, okay? And then after the ribbing, you switch to the raglan shaping. So the problem, I think, with those directions is that the asterisk needs to move to inside the parentheses. Does that make sense? You're not the first person to call my attention to this, but this is the first time that I recognize what the problem was. The problem is that the asterisk needs to go inside the parentheses. I hope that helps. Okay, knitting fantasies. I generally don't buy patterns on Ravelry, but I know some of you do. So I took a look over there today and I found that Joji Locatelli and Caitlin Hunter both have new sweater patterns out. Joji has a pattern called Irish Gold, and it's very Joji. It's very basic but interesting, fingering weight, long. She does not mind just knitting and knitting and knitting miles of stockinette. But it has kind of a cool, I'm not exactly sure whether it's a drop stitch pattern or it has some kind of a vertical interest going all the way around the sweater. I'm not sure how it's constructed. I didn't look into it that deeply, but her photography is top tier. She is not using an iPhone to take these pictures. A lot of us designers use an iPhone because the camera is really, really good and you can put filters on it. But if you use a DSLR camera, which Joji is obviously using, and it looks like her husband or whoever it is who's taking her pictures knows how to use it, they're just amazing, amazing pictures. It is an $8 pattern and it's 20% off until November 1st if you want to knit that. Caitlin Hunter's new sweater is called Autumn Alpine. It is a sport weight sweater and it's really cool. It's got a very Caitlin Hunter yoke, looks, very similar to things she's done before, but it's interesting in that it has some interest at the hem and at the cuffs. So I really like it. It's really cool. It is $9. I don't know if it's on sale or not. Patterns are going up in price and I gotta say, I get it. It's expensive to publish a pattern, but at the same time, yarn is also expensive. So I don't know. These two ladies, I think this is what they do exclusively. So that's how they make their living. I get it. It's a lot of work too. Another thing that I found on Ravelry are these socks. They are adorable. Yellow socks with a red and white mushroom pattern. They're so cute. They're called the Magical Mycelium Socks by Stone Knits. And when I looked at this yarn that she used, I was like, that is a fuzzy yarn. It looks really interesting. So I looked it up. I forget what it's called. I'll link the pattern down below. You can look it up if you want. But the fiber content of the yarn that she's using is 30% Exmoor Horn, which is, I guess, a breed of sheep, 30% Blue-Faced Leicester, which is BFL, 20% Corriedale, 10% Zwartbulls, which I guess is another breed of sheep. So different sheep breeds, and then 10% nylon. So all those different sheep breeds in there have really created a yarn that has a really cool halo to it. So those are my knitting fantasies for today. They are all linked below if you're interested in that. All right, so here's what happened. You guys have come out of the woodwork to send me stories. Even after last week when I told you that I had a bunch, more of you sent them to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is a weekly podcast and this is people's favorite part. So I need a lot of stories. Feel free to email me your knitting story if you have one, Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. All of you who have emailed me in the past week, I have not yet responded to you. I apologize. My husband did go into my email and make it so all of my shop emails go to a certain folder, which has decluttered my email box a ton. And so I'm generally right on top of emails where people say things like, I don't understand this part of the pattern, or I can't download my pattern, or I have a problem. Usually when someone has a problem, I try and get back to you right away. But I am about a week behind in responding to, so here's what happened emails. So I will be getting back to you soon. Today's knitting story comes from a lovely podcast watcher named Kathy. And Kathy says, I have been meaning to write for some time now, but life always seems to get in the way. Amen, sister. Here is a story for you. This story is called the I Didn't Think It Was Ugly Christmas Sweater. Back in the golden years of knitting, pre-Ravelry, one had to find knitting patterns either from magazines, books, or syndicated newspaper columns. My local paper ran a column every Sunday called Pat Trexler Crafts. Each week, some handicraft was discussed with a featured pattern. Back in September of 1991, a winter pullover sweater that included all-over colorwork was featured. I was in love. For $1 and a self-addressed stamped envelope, you could get the pattern. Or for the incredible price of $19.95, you could purchase a kit. Being a young professional who was just discovering that she had disposable income, I decided to splurge and buy the kit. I anxiously waited for a couple of weeks while my check traveled to Pat Trexler headquarters in Kansas City, Missouri, and my order could be fulfilled. You can imagine my excitement when I got home from work one evening to find a box sitting on the front porch from Pat Trexler Crafts. It was full of squeaky acrylic yarn in glorious 1990s off-white, Christmas green, and Christmas red. It was beautiful. At that point in my life, I was married but had no children yet. My husband spent the autumn weekends duck hunting, so I knew I had time to myself to work on this sweater. I hadn't knit anything since I was in high school, but I was sure it was like riding a bike. I had never done color work and did an okay job with the tension. The checkerboard pattern on the sleeves was puckered a bit because my floats were too tight, but I didn't care. That's an easy place to make color work too tight when you're working it in a tight circumference. The sweater was finished by Christmas, and I proudly wore it to my in-laws on Christmas Eve and my parents' house on Christmas Day. I do that all the time, repeat outfits with different people. It became my Christmas uniform until I outgrew it. I couldn't part with the sweater though, and kept it tucked away in my closet. Fast forward to the mid-2010s when my oldest daughter was in college. One Thanksgiving, just before heading back to college, she pulled the sweater out of my closet and asked if she could borrow it for a Christmas party back at school. Thinking that she loved it like I did, I said yes, so happy that it was going to get loved again. As she left, she said, "Thanks, I know I'm going to win the ugly sweater contest with this." I can't tell you how crushed I was, but that crushing blow was nothing like how I felt when I learned she had lost it somewhere along the way. She said she let a friend borrow it and never saw it again. First of all, I am so sorry that you were crushed, Kathy. That's such typical teenager behavior, to not care that your mom made it and to not take good enough care of it so that they lost it. I have teenagers too. And while mine are particularly thoughtful, I was not a thoughtful teenager. This is totally something that I would have done when I was a teenager. Mom, I'm sorry. Last year, Kathy says, my husband and I decided to downsize because all of our children are grown and moved out of the house. As I packed up my sweaters, I thought about that sweater and decided that I would try and recreate it. When I packed up my craft supplies, I desperately looked for the pattern, but to no avail. So then I searched the internet, including a posting on a Ravelry forum, but I could not locate a copy of the pattern. I knew somewhere in one of the many boxes we were moving was a photo of me wearing the sweater, but I had no clue as to where that could be. I decided that someday I'll sit down and draft my own sweater. Christmas Uniform 2.0. Now, just today, as I sat down to write you a story about the first sweater I ever knit, I went to the basement to find the boxes with my high school yearbooks, hoping that one of them contained a picture of me in that first sweater since I wore it often in high school. Okay, so this is not the Christmas sweater, right? The first, I think talking about the first sweater that she made. Just as I was sorting through the box with the yearbooks, I found a stack of magazines. As I flipped through the magazines, hoping one would be the one with that first sweater pattern in it, this will be another story, she says. Oh, you promised now, Kathy. We're waiting. A couple of pages fell out. Lo and behold, it was a Pat Trexler Winter Wonderland pullover pattern. Thank you, St. Jude, which I thought was awesome because St. Jude is the patron saint of hopeless causes, not the patron, like I would have said, thank you, St. Anthony, who's the patron saint of lost things, but I guess Kathy had given up on this pattern. She says, I can now recreate the Winter Wonderland. This time it will be in some lovely wool, not squeaky acrylic, and probably in some subtler colors. But my daughter will probably still think it's an ugly Christmas sweater. I won't care and will proudly wear it. Attached is a photo of the pattern pamphlet, and she said here, if I ever find a picture of the original sweater, I will pass it along. And she did. So, a few things. It sounds like this daughter is in her 20s now. I'm wondering if she is old enough to feel bad. You have to be a certain age. Does she have kids of her own? That's the point at which she will feel bad about the sweater. So I hope she doesn't feel bad, but then maybe a little bit of feeling bad isn't the worst thing. But here is a picture. This is Kathy in her younger days wearing the sweater, and the child that she is holding is the daughter who later lost the sweater. So this is the Winter Wonderland sweater. Kathy, when you finish the new version of the Winter Wonderland, you will have to send us a picture so that we can compare. We got to put the pictures side by side. We can see the original Winter Wonderland and the new version. So awesome. Great, great story, Kathy. I think no matter where you are in your life, whether you are the irresponsible child or the young adult who's not old enough to care, or the person with young kids who's starting to realize, or the person whose kids have grown and flown, and you totally understand every part of that story, it's a very applicable story for all of us. We can all relate to that. And I say I have children who are, my teenagers are unusually thoughtful, but my oldest one gave me some bags of clothes to take to Goodwill, and I opened them up just to see what was in there, and half of it was mine. They were my clothes that she was like, I don't want these anymore, just give them to Goodwill. I'm like, maybe give them back to me. So, it's all right. It's all good. I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday filled with knitting. I know that I will. And I will see you next week. Bye, knitters.